Rugby Roots is brought to you by Compede Melbourne Nomad Sevens. Visit the top link in the description for more information. Welcome back to welcome back to Young Rugby, and indeed another episode of Rugby Roots, where a show where we find out where our favourite players found their love for the game. This episode, I am delighted to be joined by Worcester prop forward Nick Schonert. Hello.
Cheers, Sam. Thanks for having me, mate.
Yeah, not too bad. How are you?
I am keeping very well. Keeping myself busy and out of trouble. And yeah, we've just got back to training, so that's quite nice. I miss my partner's here, so she's pretty happy. And yeah, otherwise all is good, man. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. How excited are you to get back to training and get back into things? I know it's been a bit of an anticipation, bit of
Well,
a...
it's been quite weird. Luckily for me, I built myself a home gym and stuff.
Yeah.
Just like a week before before the lockdown went. Hey, come. Sorry, I've got a cat bloody scratching at my legs. I built myself a gym about a week before lockdown kind of hit us, and I kind of sat back and thought to myself, well, how do I want to approach lockdown? And I spoke with my folks, and they were like, well, treat it as though it's going to last for a long time. So I've never really had, in my 6 or going on 7 years now at Worcester, I've never really had kind of 8 weeks off unless I've been injured to kind of train. It's been mostly play most weekends, or I've been busy or pre-season, so I haven't really had time to work on myself. And I think I'm one of those players that I'm not. I'd like to think that I haven't hit my peak yet. You kind of gradually get there, opposed to guys who go up like that and then kind of find their way. I'm still building and working on myself. And one of my things has been my conditioning. Luckily at the club, we've got incredible guys, incredible conditioners, like a guy called Johan Pistorius. And he's been great, and he's helped me over lockdown. And yeah, so I've spent the last couple of weeks. I've actually hit my personal best speed today. We were doing sprints, and we got told not to run our quickest, and it doesn't take much for me to hit my top speed. It's only like 5 meters per second. but yeah, other than that, mate, all is good, man. I've been keeping myself busy and trying to keep myself fit and healthy. But back to your first question, I'm biting at the bit now, because I felt I've used this time wisely, and I want to see if it's made any difference. I want to see if I can get anything out of it, whether it's if I feel a bit quicker on the field, if I feel a bit stronger, if I feel a bit more agile, So I'm quite excited on that extent, and then I'm also just excited to get back into routine, man. I think that's lockdown has highlighted lots of things, and I think as rugby players, we crave routine. We crave kind of having a 6 o'clock wake up call, getting into work and cracking on and having a laugh with your mates, and So I'm really excited on that front, mate.
So I wanna go right back to the start with you.
Yeah.
Have a look at where your rugby journey sort of started. You talk me through your first sort of memories of rugby, and how you progressed through rugby in your childhood and teenage years.
I think my first rugby memory. So in South Africa, we played barefoot rugby up until the age of 14. Everything was barefoot, so that's why like my fingers are like my toes. They're just crooked, and it's from all like getting kicked and breaking your toes. And so yeah, my first memory was probably I was probably 9 years old. I think I was a centre at that time. And yeah, 9 or 10, I was like a centre. I was quite tall. And then kind of my first like prop, where I started to like get the kind of concept that I'd really enjoy the sport, I was probably 14. And the coach at the time, Steve Lamarck, He's at Maritzburg College. I went to high school there. He said, no, you belong in the front row. Obviously, I packed on a few pounds. Obviously, I missed my folks because I was at boarding school. So I was quite a heavy lad. I think I was 100 kilos when I was 13. I was quite a heavy boy. So those were my first memories. Very, very like humble beginnings, small fields, backyard fields kind of thing, nothing like spectacular. And yeah, that's where it all started. My dad didn't do much rugby. My mother came from quite a sporty family. My dad was quite sporty himself, but myself and my brother were kind of the first real Schonets that played rugby, I think. So yeah, that's where we started. And, he was a bit older than me. He's 3 years older than me, and he's still playing now, and he's still a very good player. And at the time, he was really good. So that was my first person I looked up to. He was 3 years older than me, and I was like, geez, I want to be like him. So that's where it all kind of started.
So when did rugby start getting serious for you? When did you realise that this could potentially be a career path that you could go down?
In South Africa, there's two major school competitions. There's Grand Coma Week, which is the under 16 like national league that they play like. So it's like provinces. So basically like Worcestershire, all the teams would get together and they'll select a 23 from there, and then you'd play against like a Leicestershire kind of thing, and then they'd play like that. So it's like counties against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then under 17, under 18 rugby is a thing called Craven Week. And I just, without the right place or right time, I just kind of, I made each one, and then still wasn't really like, it was always a dream of mine. I mean, it's, rugby in South Africa is a religion. So you play, if you can play it, you play it. And you love it, but you don't really think of the aftermath of it. You just kind of play it for because you want to, be with the lads. And then I got approached by the Sharks at the age of 17, and they started speaking to me. And then I signed on a 2-year deal for the Sharks Academy as a contract. And then from then I was like, right, this is it now. I wanted to give myself at least 4 years. I said, put all my eggs in one basket. I can always come back to studies and just see where it takes me. And the road to here wasn't really easy. I've probably been, I did a podcast the other day, and the guy asked me, what do you think makes a good rugby player? And I said, the ability to say no and to challenge people when they say you aren't good enough. Because from the age of 21 to about until I arrived at Worcester, I was told I wasn't good enough. So just kind of how it all works.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there's a stereotype, I guess, in rugby when it comes to South Africa, that it's kind of like it's very hard to get in, and it's very hard to make a name for yourself. And I guess that is definitely down to the amount and the sheer number of players and the player pool in South Africa. But how hard is it really how cutthroat is the South African system in comparison? Obviously now you've seen how English rugby works firsthand at Worcester. What differences, both culturally on the pitch and off the pitch, do you see between the South African rugby setup and the English rugby setup?
Man, that's a good question. I don't really know if there's a massive difference. I've been a part of English rugby, playing rugby in Worcester now, and I've been a part of the Prem now for a while. And from what I've seen, and I've coached a few schools and stuff, I've been lucky enough to do that. There's not much difference, I'd probably think rugby's more of a, I think it's more of it's more a sport people want to play in South Africa than here. I think football's the dominant sport here. I think everyone grows up wanting to be the next Wayne Rooney or whoever. I'm not really a big football fan. That's the only name I could give you. But in South Africa, everyone wants to be Bucky Spuita. Everyone wanted to be Victor Matfield. Everyone wanted to be Horst Durant. Those were the names. Everyone wanted to be Beeston Taurira. So I think you'd probably get more of a buy-in at a younger age. So there'd be more competition. I wouldn't want to say more competition, but there's both. I think there's 60 million in South Africa, and I think there's probably 60 million here. So I think there's the same number of people. I just think more kids are kind of inclined to play rugby. I don't know. I don't know, man. That's a
It
really good
seems
question.
it seems as though it's the traditional sport, and it's the go-to, and it seems as though there's much more of a passion. Obviously, there's a massive passion for English rugby, but from what I've seen and from what I know from an English perspective, is that rugby here, and we've seen it firsthand, is not a it's not one of the big sports. We as English rugby fans might think that we're a big fish, but we're really not. And I know in South Africa, it's just so much bigger, and there's so much anticipation around each and every game. So, what advice do you think you'd give to any young South African players listening or watching? Indeed, what advice would you give them when it comes to getting selected, and maybe they've been given a no, and maybe they've said no, you're not good enough. Where do you go from there after rejection, and in such a cutthroat business? Where do you go from no?
I think you first got to ask yourself the question, how serious you are about it. So when I'm all or nothing. Either I'm on a diet and I'm eating vegetables and chicken, or I'm eating 3 pizzas. It's either or. So I can't do things half-heartedly. So I knew myself as a person. I said, well, my first kind of setback, or it wasn't really a setback, it was probably the best thing I've ever learned, was when I was 21. I just finished the Rugby World Cup, and the year later I got told that there was no place for me at the Sharks. And I'll never forget, I phoned my dad after the meeting because I was promised a contract, because I kind of got screwed over, if you want to think about it. I want to say that, but I don't worry about the past. But I phoned my dad